Kip Mailing, Richmond Ward Councillor. Do we need to use the speakers? Is it being recorded?
Oh, no, that's
Yep, I have mine on.
oh, yeah. Is it just Catherine on Zoom? Okay. So I didn't have my, we've opened the meeting. I didn't have my mic on, so you wouldn't have heard that on Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'm Anne Randall, 3 Jessie Street, Mopua, and I'm the owner of the dogs. Oh, yeah.
And I'm Mark. I'm obviously Anne's husband, so I'm here just to assist and provide some support for Anne today. Yes, Mark.
Oh, there it is. Kia ora, Shannon Green, team leader for regulatory support.
Kia ora, I'm Sandy. I'm the regulatory support officer under Shannon.
Kelsey McLean, Senior Governance Advisor.
Thank you. And to note that the meeting is being, the meeting is being recorded, and we do have some people on Zoom. So Catherine Hubbard, who is from Nelson Mail. Do we still call it Nelson Mail? Staff. Sorry, Catherine. And Tim, who's a staff member here. And we have, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Elaine. Yeah, and Elaine's in the public gallery. And you've had a copy of the report, the staff report that we're considering today. You've seen that and
Yes,
read
thank you.
that. Great, just checking that. And the process that we'll go through. And so we've got normally Councillor Mike Kinnamont's on this committee, and he hasn't arrived, so he may arrive during the meeting, in which case he'll just come in and sit down and we'll carry on. But the process is that you'll make a statement to us, and then the council will, staff will make a statement. We'll speak to the report, and then after that you'd have a right of reply. And at any time we may ask questions, and then the panel will adjourn. So it goes into a confidential session where we'll discuss with ourselves and staff we'll make a decision at that time, and then and that decision gets made public the next day or two, usually, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, and so it's over to you for your statement to us.
Can I just ask a quick question? Because we've got information that you guys will need making your decision, with, you know, things like from the vet and from people who know the dog, know the dogs, all that. We've got that information here. How can we pass that over to you guys?
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah. Sorry?
Yeah, sorry.
The one copy, or
Just have one copy.
We only have
yes,
one
okay,
copy.
right. I think if we just wait when we're in deliberations, we can have a look. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Oof, I don't really know where to begin. Let's start on the day of the incident. We've got 2 border terriers. So Tilly is 4, and she is a little reactive dog. She was attacked as a wee puppy by a Labrador, and she hates big dogs. She also nearly lost her life with pyometria when she was 1 and ended up being a diabetic. So she's a very nervous little dog. Okay, so that's sort of Tilly's background. I don't often let her off the lead. Only incidents up in the field when I know there's no one around. I don't think there's anybody around. Theo is 9.5 male. He is never given us any trouble at all. He's known by all our friends and their children as a loving, playful dog, and we were absolutely destroyed when this incident happened. So I was up in the fields at 7 o'clock. What was it, the 16th? I can't even remember.
Quite early, maybe that's something.
I was up there at 7 o'clock in the morning with the dogs. We'd done a big lap around the area and there was nobody else around. And so foolishly, it was just before Christmas. I was in a really good mood. My son was coming back from overseas and it was just beautiful. It was really quiet. And Theo was off because Theo always goes off lead. We've never, ever had any trouble with him. And I let Tilly off, and I probably shouldn't have. It all happened very quickly. We'd sort of turned to go up the hill. We were at the dogs were at the bottom of the hill when the incident happened. I literally heard the noise, ran around, and whatever his name is, was actually on the floor with the 3 dogs, and he was going like this all over the place. It was horrible. I thought, I'm not getting involved in that or I'll get bitten. So anyway, I backed off and started to call the dogs. Tilly came off first with her tail between her legs, ears back, down like this on the ground. Anyway, I got her and I put her on a lead, and then I called for Theo. Eventually he came off, but I didn't get involved in the fight because I thought, I'm going to get hurt as well. It's just going to make it worse. Now, we were totally at a loss as to why Theo bit anybody.
Well, if he did.
Yeah, whatever. So we've been in touch with the vet off and on for the last 2 months, and Theo was kicked very, very hard and had an internal bleed. And our feeling is that if that's happened, that will be enough to make him bite somebody, because he's got no history at all of anything. So anyway, I got the dogs back on the lead. The guy was shouting and screaming at me, and I turned my back to get my phone out to phone Mark because I was in such a state. And with that, he just shut up and he went home. I was just in a terrible state. I sat in the garden for half an hour crying before somebody got me on the phone. And it was just one of the most horrible experiences I've ever had in my life. I've even been talking to victim support. Consequent walks with the dogs have been horrific. I've been verbally abused on numerous times. My son has been threatened by the husband of those owner.
One of the main things I think to speak to, if I can guide you, is that there's been a menacing dog, excuse me, classification given, and you're objecting to that. So
Very much so.
You're thinking that you're wanting So what you'll need to do here is explain to us why the menacing dog classification should be overturned. So, and you'll understand that under the Act, if a dog does what your dogs have done, the menacing classification happens.
Right. So
and then you'll have to make a case for why we would overturn that.
Yeah. Okay. So our friend and neighbour, who has been a local vet and known us for the last 3.5 years, he wanted to speak on our behalf, I suppose. And he basically says that, look, all the dogs were off the lead. They were, and they went under direct control. it's a he said, she said case. No objective witnesses. Claims of past attacks are irrelevant as they were not reported and they were not documented. Claims of other people stating issues, again, it's irrelevant because it's not been put in writing related to dated incidents. No actual knowledge of which dog, if any, caused the wounds currently attributed to Theo. And we couldn't see the medical records, just invoices with will a doctor state definitively that the wounds were caused by Tilly and Theo and not just by the three of them all having a fight? Matt's letter?
Yes.
Other bit.
Oh, so Matt's message.
Oh, you've got you guys have got Matt the vet's letter. As I said, he's known them, treated them. Our dogs, he has 2 dogs as well. They live next door to each other. There's no problem.
Chris, can I just ask, am I able to ask a question?
Not really, no,
Okay.
only if it's a process question. So this is just a time for you to make a statement to make your case about why you think we should overturn the menacing dog classification. So whatever you can offer up
Yeah.
for that, and then we'll go to the staff and then you'll get a right of reply.
Yeah.
But if you've got a process question, that's fine, but not a general question, no.
No, the process question was, and I've read through Shannon's reports, and he's been very helpful. Primarily was the menacing classification because the owner was bitten.
Well, I think let's leave that for when Shannon comes to his report, and you're about to let us all know around why that classification was landed on as being appropriate in this case.
Yeah,
How about that? Yep.
Yep, thank you.
Have you got anything extra, Anne?
I don't think so.
No, I think
No.
you've gone through the main points. And
They're all the main points. Yeah. And
Yes.
as I say, Matt did that email for us because he can't be here because he's in Wellington, to support, to support us. And yeah, as I said, we've never had any trouble. Poor Theo's been in and out of the vet I don't know how many times, and the vets just say what a lovely mellow dog he is. Tilly's on injections twice a week for her diabetes. She's in and out the vet, and there's just never been any trouble. So we just don't feel that they should be labelled menacing.
Councillor Mailing, you've got a question?
Yeah, I'll probably got a couple, but first
Yeah.
of all, how far away were the dogs from you?
Oh, probably from here to your table. The grass was
When
quite
you
long.
went to the bathroom,
Yeah. And I just ran. Yeah. So I couldn't
only,
see them.
What, 12 meters?
Yeah, possibly.
maybe less.
Yeah, maybe 10, 12.
There is it's quite difficult. But yeah, certainly
yeah,
not.
Not far. It didn't take me long to get there. As soon as I heard them, they were only a little way ahead of me, but the grass was long and I couldn't see them till I got around to the bottom of the hill.
My understanding is that too many speakers on. You need to turn your yeah. Otherwise, it doesn't work. The system doesn't work if there's too many speakers on. Do you normally walk your dogs with them off the lead? But you did on this occasion.
Well,
Yes or no? That's what I want to know.
if we are up in the fields and the trees, Theo will be off lead. Yes, there's never been a
So
problem.
they were both off lead on this.
But they were both only for probably the last 15 minutes of the walk. As I say, once I thought, well, there's nobody here. It's really quiet. It's about 8 o'clock. I'd been up there for an hour, and I let her off for a run.
Okay.
She's a terrier. She loves to run. Bless her.
Further, councillor.
No.
Once the fight was happening, how close were you then to the dogs and Ella?
probably the middle of the room there. I'm not very good with meters. It just
Right.
really close, but just back from. I felt if I got any closer, I could have got dragged into the kerfuffle as well. So I stood back and called my dogs. I didn't think I could do anything else.
Didn't feel like you could grab them and
Well,
help
it
get
was
them
at
off?
the bottom of a hill. There wasn't that much room, and I've just never been one for getting if there's a kerfuffle. Yeah. I mean, he was in the middle on the ground on his back, sort of going
Were
like
you-
this.
Were you worried for him at that point?
No, not particularly. No.
Right. And so just to clarify with you,
Yeah.
so the reason that you are thinking the menacing dog classification shouldn't continue is because
My dogs aren't menacing.
that this was a menacing situation.
Okay, it was a one-off.
Right.
And,
So it's a
and it's
one-off.
my fault. And I've apologised on numerous occasions to the person, the male, who totally won't listen to me. It was my mistake. I should not have let Tilly off. She's not often let off lead at all. And I thought I was clear, and I wasn't.
And you would have
Yeah,
You
and
would-
it hasn't been since. Oh,
and you would have read Alex's statement where he says these dogs had previously attacked Bo, so I turned to walk away, but the dogs ran up the hill.
we went up the hill. It was at the bottom of the hill. It was on the bottom of the hill. And he said, I do not know of another time where my dogs have attacked him, so I don't know what he's talking
Okay.
about.
Thank you. Have you got anything extra, councillor? Okay, thank you for that. And we'll come to you, Shannon, to speak to your report. And if you could include the information that Mark's asked for clarification around.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So speaking to the reason for the classification, we'll start with that.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Just speaking about the reason for the classification, starting with that. That better. So the menacing classification requires observed or reported behaviour where we would consider the dogs to be a threat to the safety of people, stock, animals, or domestic animals. In this instance, it was the reported behaviour of the dogs rushing and attacking both the owner and the dog that was the main contributor to the classification.
Any points from your report that you'd like to make clear?
Absolutely. So key points that led to the classification and that I've outlined in the report were that the two dogs were not on the lead, and as you said, that neither was the other dog, but the dogs weren't on the lead. You weren't able to see them, and then
Sorry, this isn't a debate. So what happens is you've had your say, and now we'll hear from Shannon for the report, and then you have a right to reply. So maybe just make a note if there's something you want to respond back to at that time. But we don't just go into a debate here. Thank you.
and you were able to call off Tilly relatively quickly in your statement, but Theo stayed on for quite a while, and took a while for you to call him off, and so that was the couple of the key factors. Speaking to the previous unreported incidents, they didn't come into play when it came to making the classification because they're not substantiated. So that's we can't use that information. But the incident on its own merit is what warrants the classification in our view, in our eyes, which is why we made the decision we did. Any questions?
Any questions of Shannon?
My understanding is menacing is the lowest classification that you're able to use. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And what would be, so in terms of the cascade, which is the, under the Act, what is it that would have needed to have happened for it to be a dangerous dog classification?
So this one was actually on the fence of dangerous and menacing, because it's the severity of the attack, and whether the restrictions around a dangerous classification also impose restrictions at home. So if it was they left the property or something like that to commit the attack, that would then say to me there needs to be a dangerous classification involved.
Okay.
In this case, they were being walked in a public place. Muzzling and leashing would be enough to prevent this happening again. So that's why we went with the menacing classification. But because of the severity of the attack with it and the damage done, we were considering both.
Right.
Yeah.
So in your view, it was a close run thing about which of the classifications would apply?
Yes.
Okay.
And we chose menacing for the reason that it was we don't need to impose restrictions at the property just while they're in the public being walked.
Any other comments that you'd like to make to highlight any other points in your report?
No, just that we, we did also infringe as well. So it wasn't just the classification; we did also infringe. So yeah, that's better.
Anything further, Councillor Mayling, for you?
No. No.
And it might be helpful, Kelsey, just to put the resolution up. We're not going to pass that now, but I think to see so that other people in the room can see the decision that we'll make. There's a choice point between the two, but just I think it's helpful to have it up on the screen. Thank you. Yeah, it's all right. I mean, your report's got the information, and that's there's enough information there to for me to understand how you've come to the decision you have, and appreciate that. So now, Anne, it's time if you've got any questions or you've got to write a reply. There's things that you've heard that you'd like to respond to.
Am I able to stand now or just sort of whisper in your ear, or I say and she says it and then I can talk to you?
I think it's okay for you to speak, Mark. It's other people have done that in the meetings we've had. So if there's something you'd like to say, that's a right of reply in response to what Shannon's brought forward.
Yeah. Shannon's aware of some of the, shall we say, ongoing issues after the alleged incident, which are frankly totally unacceptable. But when you go out and I guess review this sort of behind closed doors, hopefully you can review some of the information that we've perhaps passed across for consideration. But I think just to reiterate the views, and Shannon's taken this in consideration, a lot of it is he said, she said to a degree. We actually don't know which of the dogs actually initiated the fight in the first place. Certainly as we're coming off the beach and going up, and it's reasonably dense bush, we go through a little clearing. One of the other dogs is obviously coming down. Tilly is reactive, right? And she's normally on a lead. In fact, I feel bad because I was away and was there, and I said, it's a beautiful morning, why don't you go early and basically go down through the apple orchard? So I guess it was a combination of a lot of things, everything aligned to just be an unfortunate event. All I can reiterate is that, the dogs, we don't believe are menacing. Most of the other people don't. I think the single biggest fault was that they were off leash, and that hasn't happened since, and it won't happen in the future. So I guess that is lesson learned. To actually get down amongst the dogs and try to break it up, I was brought up on a farm. It's not something I would do. I'd either let them fight because one will win and the other will back off, or go in and grab them. They're not big dogs. We could just grab them by the collars and kind of lift them up. So there's a lot of he said, she said in there. we've obviously learned from the incident, and I say it is actually unusual for them to be off leash. About the only time they are off leash actually is when if they're down there in the water swimming. And one of the reasons we go there is if you go right down to the bottom of the beach on another part, you can look right back up the hill and you can actually see if anyone's coming down. So honestly, it couldn't have been worse. 10 seconds later, you would have been through the clearing and seen someone else, or 10 seconds before, you would have actually seen them coming through the clearing. So it was just kind of one of those things. So the planets unfortunately just aligned. But hopefully, during your sort of deliberations, you can just have a look at some of the supporting evidence. And as I say, if it was Theo that did bite, it was under, I would say, significant sort of provocation.
I would just like to say Theo does have a habit when he gets excited, he sort of jumps up and down and goes like this. But sorry, it's a playful thing, and I wonder if it was taken as as being aggressive when in fact that's what he's like.
Thank you. I've got a question. Have you had your dogs muzzled since the classification's been given? In every incident that you're out in public.
They are put on, their muzzles are put on at the front door before we go out of our property.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, since we've opened the letter from the council, the dogs have never been outside the gate without a muzzle.
Right.
Initially, it was a sort of a softer muzzle, which kind of restricted them opening their mouths and breathing properly. So there's probably some photographs there.
They have Baskerville muzzles on now.
And just finally from me, so your basic reason for wanting to convince us to overturn the classification is that it was a one-off and you're confident it wouldn't happen again?
And I will never let Tilly off the lead again.
Yeah, I think I just have some concern around in your statement you've acknowledged that I don't know, there's more to this than a he said she said situation. There's been a dog attack and someone's been injured through that, so it is a really serious matter.
It was, but the dogs were injured. The dogs were injured as well.
Thank you. If you don't have anything fresh or like new to add, then
yeah, Councillor Hill, I think that anything new to add, you've actually got in some of those written statements,
yes.
The photographs and the reports from the local vet.
Thank you. So that leaves us simply to adjourn, and we'll move into. We'll work out if we need a resolution to do that. I think that we don't, do we know? So we'll adjourn. So thank you for coming in, and we'll make our deliberations. Those on Zoom will need to leave too, and you'll be notified of the decision in 2 or 3 days. Do you think? Certainly within a week, would we say?
Certainly within a week, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. The meeting's now reconvened, and we have a resolution to pass. I'm happy to move a resolution that number one, that we receive the menacing dog classification appeal, and number two, that we uphold the menacing classifications of Theo and Tilly owned by Anne Randall.
I'm happy to see.
Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. There we go. Yes. Yes, I will. Thank you, Star. Thanks, Sandy and Shannon, for your work on this. It's never comfortable, very difficult situations. So thank you for your considered approach. And thank you, Councillor Malin. And Councillor Kinnamoth, we haven't heard from, so he would be an absent, marked as absent, please. Karakia tātou to close our meeting. Tāwhiri mā ngā hua o te tai ao, mai a papa tuaniku e tākuro nei, kia rahi nui e tū iho nei, titiri whakamaua kia tina, tina hui e taiki. Thank you, everybody.